having wanted to make a point.
That's right. Don't mean to interrupt your train of thought there.
You aren't going to stay the whole time, are you? I mean, it doesn't matter to me.
15 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Doesn't matter to me.
We won't interrupt you.
Okay.
You won't know we're here.
Because if you were going to slip out, I just thought I'd know. Blankenhorn. There's no... I got it right? I mean, there's nothing...
That's it.
That's as it sounds.
That's it, yeah.
Or as it's...
Very few of them around.
I didn't see it up there. Sometimes I wish I was in the pencil press, you know, and we wouldn't have to worry about all this.
That's right. Yeah, how you look. That's the thing. That's what the luxury of.
And all the equipment, you know.
The equipment and the technology. But I don't know. It's the medium of our time. You know. It's a big country out there, and gotta.
And you have to master the medium of your time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I would be good at it on a daily basis. I tense up and I can't, you know, I just, can't, I feel.
You mean on TV?
Yeah, I'm not as good. I guess if you keep doing it, you get better, or
yeah,
you relax.
That's the key point. You don't get better so much as you get comfortable.
Yeah.
And as you get comfortable, you get better.
Right.
I mean, you're just as smart.
Right.
You know, the words might be identical.
Right.
But if you're, because I can tell you, on a personal experience, I did the first one of these in 1980 or so, and I'd hate to watch it today because it was terrible.
Right. Right.
15. 9, 8, 7, 6.
The book is Fatherless America, Confronting Our Most Urgent Social Problem. The author is David Blankenhorn. Mr. Blankenhorn, what's the primary message of this book?
That fatherlessness is the most dangerous social trend of our generation. 40% of the children in the country tonight will go to sleep in homes where their fathers don't live. Before they reach age 18, more than half of all the kids in the country are going to live apart from their fathers for a big part of their childhood. Father absence is the engine driving our biggest social problems, from child poverty to crime to teen pregnancy, domestic violence against women, child sexual abuse. And unless we reverse this trend of fatherlessness, no other set of accomplishments will work to reverse the declining well-being of children in our society.
Well, how is the situation now as, say, compared to 20 or 30 years ago?
There's been essentially a doubling from 25 years ago of the number of children who are growing up without their father. An interesting thing, you know, in 1965, the famous Moynihan Report that led President Lyndon Johnson to declare the war on poverty, one of the reasons he did, and he cites in a famous speech in 1965 the breakdown of the Negro family structure as one of the great crises. If you look at the data for black family structure in 1965, it's the same as we have today for white family structure. So the trend, from 65 to 95, there has been an astonishing increase in the trend, especially in the white community.
Why'd you write the book?
It seemed like in so much of the debate it was about women and children. And, you know, meanwhile there's an elephant in the room called fatherlessness that, especially when I began the book, was not really on the radar screen too much in the public debate. And it seemed like, well, yes, it's important to talk about the roles of women and the plight of children, but meanwhile we have this mass defection of fathers. And it seemed to me to be not only the key to understanding a lot of the trends, but also a way to get a fresh grip on looking at the problem.
I suppose we should mention at the outset that you are the founder and president of the Institute for American Values. What is that? What does it do? And where does the money come from?
It's a small think tank in New York City that focuses on family issues and trends affecting children. We have a staff of 4, an annual budget of about $400,000 a year, most of which comes from private foundations. 10 or 15% comes from individual newsletter subscribers and people who come to our conferences and so on.
And how is it that you founded that? Why did you establish it?
It started, I founded the organization with the help of others in 1987, seeing that the weakening of the family and the declining well-being of children, sort of predicting or anticipating that this was going to become an increasingly important problem in the national debate, feeling as though much of the issue had been sort of hijacked for political purposes and sort of caught up in the partisan political war, and wanting to bring together some good thinkers and writers, ideology aside, you know, from across the political spectrum, to focus on this issue of the conditions affecting children and the family as a social institution.
In the book, you come up with several different types of fathers today. What are they, and give us a little of each, about each.
Well, I try to outline the main way that we are thinking about fathers today, because one of the main arguments that I make in the book is that we are not simply losing fathers, but we are losing the idea of fatherhood. We are increasingly becoming a society that no longer really believes that fathers are necessary, or that fatherhood is even possible for all or even most of our children. So I talk about the unnecessary father, the belief that you don't really need fathers to raise. They can get what they need from mothers and other people. I talk about the old father, which is we have a highly critical view of sort of our parents' and grandparents' generation of fathers. I talk about the new father, which is the kind of darling of our current discussion. He's the sort of nurture, you know, kind of like a mom father. And I have some things to say about him, some good, a lot not so good. And then I talk about a series of almost fathers, fathers that we want to be fathers to these kids, or we talk about them as if they were, but they're not really giving the children what they want. I talk about the deadbeat dad, the guys who are not paying the child support. I talk about the visiting father. These are the divorced guys who are paying child support and are visiting, but the question is, are they really providing fatherhood for the children? I talk about the sperm father, the guy who just, his contribution is to impregnate the woman, and that's that. And that's about 30% of all children today are fathered by this type of father. So, and then I talk about stepfather, and I talk about a guy who I call the nearby guy. And he's really a wish or a kind of a desire on our part that we're going to have our, you know, role models and, you know, guys down the street and coaches and sort of boyfriends, mothers' boyfriends are going to provide fatherhood for children who are living apart from their father. And I'm actually quite critical of all of these almost fathers. Not because there are not a lot of good guys and not because there are not some good intentions, but because the children aren't getting fatherhood.
You must offer a prescription.
Well, the prescription is to change our minds. You know, if the basic question is, does every child deserve a father? We're a society now, our answer is, not necessarily. We don't know. There are all these reasons why it can't be. And I think that what's required is a very fundamental shift of cultural values and attitudes on this question. Now, when we do that, or I should say as we do that, I think and hope that we will also change some of our public policies and our laws and our educational institutions. And I have, in the last chapter 12, some specific recommendations. But the fundamental thing is an attitudinal shift that says we want to maximize the possibility that every child grows up with a father.
Well, let's talk about public policy, because that debate's going on now in the Congress. What are some of the specific recommendations you would give to government on how to change things?
I'm not too encouraged by, much of the public policy discussion. I'm not too encouraged by the main family policy debate that's being discussed today is child support. There's a kind of a bipartisan agreement that the big idea in family policy is to collect child support payments from absent fathers. I think that is essentially not going to work very well to collect the money, because the society is producing more and more guys who don't think of themselves as fathers, have no intention of acting like fathers, and I don't think we're going to collect much money from them. I think if I was waving a magic wand and wanted to start a debate on policy, I would have leaders in the administration and in the Congress say that as a matter of a national goal, we want to increase the proportion of children growing up with their two married parents. And so that every time we debated anything, whether it was changing the tax code or the welfare or education, we would make that and have a real debate about, as a society, changing that direction. A specific example, I don't think I mentioned this in the book, but more and more of the schools now have, daycare centers, and so that the junior high school girls can bring their babies to class and kind of be mainstreamed through the system as teen moms. Terrible idea. We ought to stop doing that.
What's terrible about that?
Because it communicates to these children, to these girls, that having babies before they're hardly more than children themselves, being fathered by boys and sometimes men who have no intention or desire to be fathers, is part of the educational process for which our institutions will now prepare them.
Among some of the changes in law, do you think divorce should be made more difficult?
In 40 of the 50 states, there's the lean pretty decisively toward the no-fault divorce idea. I think the language of no fault, the words no fault should be taken away and replaced by something else. I do also think that the unilateral right to divorce, we should rethink that in all the no fault. In having that debate about family law, giving more power to the spouse who does not want to end the marriage, would be a very good way to have a conversation about the importance of marriage.
What's your answer to those who say that there are a lot of men who simply don't want to be fathers, and in fact might even be bad for their children? And I'm thinking of the so-called abusive parent situations.
Well, there are some guys like that, and that's probably the minority of situations where they're probably a divorce, while tragic, is probably best. And you probably don't, you don't want these guys around. And you want to have a conception of masculinity in the society where you minimize the number of guys who are like that, where you have people feel like being a strong man is not about, hurting other people and having a predatory sexual behavior, but being a good father, being a good supporter of a wife. But that said, the minority of abusive fathers we shouldn't kid ourselves. Most situations of out-of-wedlock childbearing, 31% rate, highest divorce rate in the world. Most of those cases don't involve abuse. Most of those cases involve just lifestyle choices that are harmful to children.
What criticisms do you expect from this book and ideas in there?
A lot of the divorced fathers feel pretty angry at the insinuation that they can't be perfectly good fathers to their children. I make that argument in the book. I hope with some sympathy for their situation, but I have and will get criticism. There's a kind of a, I don't know if lobby or a point of view is the right word, that says that single moms by themselves are perfectly good enough to give children what they need, and people who believe that are certainly going to be critical of this book.
Are you a father?
Yes.
Is this a pro-family Congress in your view?
I wouldn't use that terminology, no. To me, the debate now about shrinking the size of government, cutting taxes, devolving big pieces of the federal government down to the state and local level, those all may or may not be good ideas. I support some of it, but I don't think it has much to do with the basic trend of fatherlessness one way or another.
I understand you're involved in something called Fatherhood Forums. What are they and what do they hope to accomplish?
It's sponsored by the National Fatherhood Initiative. I'm the chairman of the thing, and over the next 3 months we're going to visit about 25 cities holding these Fatherhood Forums. The goals are, one, to try to ignite a debate in each community about what can be done to reverse the trend of fatherlessness, and also to try to identify 10,000, that's our goal, people who will make a commitment to do something to reverse the trend. So we have literature on how to be a better father. We also have opportunities for people to get involved in community programs that support fatherhood.
I want to ask you about this book cover. I'll show the audience again. There's a painting there. What does that depict?
It's my wife's dad, Raymond Sachs, for whom my son is named. He died when my wife was 10 years old. The painting is by Larry Rivers. He's a well-known artist, and you know what was, well, it's a way to honor him and his memory. And also, you know, Rivers has that wonderful quality of, there's a sort of an in and out, you know, is he there, is he not there quality to it, and that's what I wanted to communicate in the book. Are the fathers there or are they not there?
Thank you, David Blankenhorn, the author of Fatherless America, Confronting Our Most Urgent Social Problem.
Thank you.